All right, we're back with the Malapert Smart podcast. Thank you to my panel today for joining me. We got Vlad, the wrestling expert, the legend, the living legend. Say hello, Vlad.
Hello, everyone. Yes. They must hear my voice and be hypnotized.
Yes. And then we also got Roberto, back on the show with us today. Thank you for joining us. Say hello.
Hello.
All right. These are some major Mondo wrestling fans since they were in the womb of their parents. They were watching wrestling. But we're here to talk today about the Survivor Series. We had a segment where we just talked about CM Punk's return for 40 minutes. But there was matches on that night, too. There was WarGames matches. A few years ago, I guess they changed the Survivor Series, the 5-on-5 tag team elimination match it used to be, which was not a bad match too, but they changed it to WarGames now, which I guess is inside a double steel cage where they're supposed to settle their beef. I was not really into the matches themselves. Before the CM Punk thing happened, I was kind of disappointed with the show. 2 babyface victories, the good guys won in both instances. But since it was the biggest match of the week pretty much, I figured we'd do a little review. If you guys had any thoughts about it, I'll show a couple videos first from the women's WarGames match. This was the spot that stole the spotlight, was Io Sky. For those of you listening on the audio podcast platforms, Io Sky went up to the top, put a trash can over her head, and flung herself into her enemies with like bowling pins that got knocked over by Io Sky in a trash can. But in the end, the babyfaces won the match. Bayley's the one who took the pinfall. So once the babyfaces took everyone out, they drove Bayley through a table via Becky Lynch, and there was a 3 count there. What do you think of these matches? Like, a lot of weapons in the ring. It's already a steel cage match. It's already pretty hardcore. Before I get to the men's match, Vlad, did you have any thoughts about this women's match? Did it strike you in any way?
No, it didn't really strike me in any way whatsoever. I think there were 2 spots. The one that you just showed with Io Sky, and I think the one where Charlotte did the moonsault from the top of the cage. But they're not really believable spots because in both instances, they're all waiting for the person to just jump off. It's not a believable spot. It's not a believable situation. I mean, yeah, that's cool, obviously. It's a cool look. Obviously, jumping and doing a moonsault from the top of a cage is pretty crazy. But at the same time, it's the difference between some of the war game matches in WCW history or NWA WCW history is that they didn't have to use all these crazy weapons. They used the cage. And that was kind of enough. Putting weapons already inside a steel cage, you're gimmicking the gimmick. It's just too gimmicky overall. And plus here, you can't even have blood on WWE shows, so it's kind of pointless to have some of these weapons for the most part. Like, they don't want any blood. I'm against just blading for the sake of blading, but in a match like this would be the time for someone to blade and actually have some juice. Because if not here, then when?
Before I get to Robert's review of this women's match, I want to point out that they're kind of missing the point of a steel cage match. I think throughout wrestling history, a steel cage match was a really useful thing because there's usually a bad guy who's cheating a lot, and he's just getting away with it nonstop, and there's just nonstop interference or something, or maybe he has a manager, or maybe he's always figures some way to get away or run away or get disqualified or get counted out. The steel cage is just supposed to be something that keeps him in there. With all the weapons and stuff, they're kind of losing the point of it. It's not meant to be like a hardcore match. It's supposed to be something that traps the bad guy in there so they have to finally have a fair fight, and we're finally going to see who really wins. And yeah, the
cage is the weapon.
The cage itself, yeah, it could be a weapon because if you get slammed into it, it's like a steel cage. It's really painful, even though it's just like a chain link fence or whatever. But
right. Well, yeah, you have to kind of use your imagination there a little bit.
On the original Hell in a Cell, it was like a scary looking thing. They try to like make it dramatic, and I don't want to say so much like some of the critics would say, just because girls are doing it, it kind of makes the men look bad, that if a girl can take this punishment. I don't think that really matters. I think there are hardcore girls out there who are just as hardcore as men. I don't think that's the point to me. The point to me is just, I don't think there really needs to be weapons in there. It's just supposed to be somewhere where people are locked in and we're finally supposed to find out who's going to win for real. And if they're going to try to cheat, they have to try to sneak something into the cage and stuff like that. But anyways, Robert, when you watch these women's WarGames match, did you enjoy it? Did you like it at all?
Well, I did, because, this is not something they do all the time. And I think that's probably why I don't mind it,
True.
This is something they do like every month or every other month or every 3 months, then okay, that would be overdoing it. But this event only happens once a year, so I don't really mind it personally. You did bring up a good point about having weapons that defeats the whole point of the steel cage match. I didn't think of that at all, honestly, but yeah, I think you are right. That was never in my mind as I was watching these matches. There were only really two main spots. A couple of things I want to point out is there were a couple of times where Shotzi, is that her name? Shotzi?
Yeah.
Looked pretty
Yes.
bad. There was one time where someone from the opposing team was like, I think, climbing the fence, and then she had a steel chair on her, and she looked like she was in mid swing to hit that. I don't remember who it was, but she was about to hit that person with the chair, and like she just stopped mid swing for some reason and did something else, and I'm like, what was that? That looked really awkward. There were other couple times that made me think like, what was she thinking? So for me, I think Shotzi was the weak link out of like all the women in that match. But, everybody else in that match is amazing. At least for me, they're great. I also have to say, like, I haven't actually been watching WWE in a while. The last WWE event I saw was the last premium live event. So I haven't watched any Raw or SmackDown. So I wasn't invested in any of the angles. I mean, sure, they had the promo packages like right before each match, but I wasn't actively following it, right? I didn't really know what was going on. So when apparently Becky and Charlotte had some sort of beef with each other, I didn't know the build up to that. I know they had beef in real life, but they had their give the people what they want moment in the middle of the match there. So I guess that was cool. I don't know if they're like really friends now or not, but we'll see. I wanted Damage Control to actually win this match though.
Yeah, you know what?
Yeah.
Good thing that you pointed that out. I think we didn't point that out. Who actually won the match? That Damage Control lost. They could have used that victory. Me and Vlad mentioned in our little preview segment we did that got over 200 views on YouTube. By the way, that was the highest viewed segment last week. But yeah, we were expecting a Damage Control victory here because we expected Judgment Day to lose later on. Turned out to be both sides lost. So okay, weird, but think that was a botched booking in my opinion, because they're still going to try to use Damage Control for a while. Why not try to make them look good here? So that was a point that we made last week. A little surprising to me that they lost. Let me move on to the men's Survivor Series, what happened there. And the whole storyline of that was the whole day nobody seen Randy Orton. He was supposed to be the fifth guy on the babyface side. Cody was like, trust me, he'll come. He wasn't in the cage with them, so he showed up later. I'm going to play this video now. Anybody listening on just audio, I'll try to describe what's happening. No audio here. Randy Orton didn't come out, and instead Rhea Ripley came out. And she was going to bring the Money in the Bank and a referee and try to cash in the briefcase on Seth Rollins at that moment when they had all the baby faces down in the ring and no Randy Orton in sight. So obviously they took too long, fumbling around, and Randy Orton's music hits. Vlad, I was a little disappointed with this whole thing. Not dramatic way to introduce Randy Orton. They could have at least done something with him showing up at the arena. Why is he late? Is there any reason why he's late? Did they ever mention that? But okay, so...
No reason. No reason that I could think of.
I think they could have done something more with that. So he comes into the ring. He's the distraction for a while. I'm going to forward through some of this a little bit. I'm going to skip with my forward button. But this gave the chance, as he took a little beat, the babyfaces got back into the match, and then that led to them winning. So the babyfaces did end up winning this one too. And this was right before the Punk entrance. JD McFunko Pop took the RKO off the steel cage. I guess that's the one spot I'll show since everybody was talking about this one. Seen this before. It's okay. It was a nice little spot. But like I said, before the whole Punk thing happened, I thought the show was disappointing. I wasn't really too excited by this whole thing. There was a failed cash-in attempt, which I guess was the most interesting part of the match. Damian Priest still hasn't cashed in that briefcase. And Judgment Day took another loss, pretty much, where they just freaking lost real badly. So anybody have any comments about this match, whether it was a good match or not, what it means for the storylines either way? Let's start with Vlad. You go first.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of slight concerns that I had. Obviously, you just mentioned a couple of them, that both the heel groups lost, so there really wasn't a lot of drama in these matches. Kind of had a feeling what was going to happen, especially when Orton came in. The only thing that there was some question, like, could Orton be pulling a swerve? That was like the only thing, like, could he betray his his team. But other than that, there really wasn't much to it. And then I think they also pinned the wrong guy. If they were going to lose, did Priest have to take the fall? They have Dominic, they have JD, even Finn.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that.
Did they have to really beat Priest if they're? I don't know. That to me is kind of weird because of all the guys of that group, he is the one guy that could be a potential future world champion. So it's weird to him. But I mean, overall, it was good to see Randy. That's one thing I'll say. I mean, as far as the match, it's the same thing. I don't really care women or men. I don't have that. It's wrestling. You're doing wrestling things. The women, in fact, like as I said before, maybe even better workers than the men in WWE. So it's not a question of like, could women work a match? I don't really care. Neither match was really that good or exciting. It was just good seeing Randy. He looked in fabulous shape. Like, he looked great. He looked like he hadn't missed time at all. He didn't look that rusty to me. I mean, he didn't do too much, of course, but like, he landed all his moves, did all his stuff. He did his.
Yeah. We didn't even mention Randy for our WrestleMania possibilities and main events and stuff.
Yeah.
Randy Orton.
That's true.
Big superstar return.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. They have a lot of names. And that's one of the things I was telling you during Raw. That's what they care about. Stars, stars, stars. Hey, we don't care about these matches, but here are the stars. Watch our stars. They're going to talk for 5-10 minutes. Watch that segment. I think it's like even Cornette said in one of his podcasts, the matches are pretty much filler at this point. If you're in a wrestling match during Raw or SmackDown, you're not over. You know, it's one of those type of things.
Oh yeah,
so it's the guys that are talking on the mic, the segments, the backstage stuff. That's the stuff that are there to see nowadays. Which I mean, it's always been the case to an extent, but before the matches would also be somewhat important. Like they would be a main event. Now it's not. I mean, it's not really. Segments are the thing now. Overall, not like excited over the matches, but good to see Randy and what have you. That's all I got on that.
Robert, you want to give any thoughts over here?
All right, so when they started to add this angle like earlier on the show about Randy's not here yet, is he going to show up? I thought that was actually pretty dumb because why would you promote his return in this event and then him not show up? So there was no doubt in my mind he was going to show up. You spent this time promoting his comeback and then he doesn't. So that's why there was, when they tried to put that angle in, I didn't buy it. There was no way that was not going to happen.
Obviously,
you know?
That's another good point, Robert. That's another reason it wasn't good.
Yeah, that's why that angle didn't work for me because, I mean, come on, you're going to promote Randy's comeback and he doesn't show up? No. I wasn't a fan of that. The match itself, I thought it was cool. I mean, I wasn't overly excited about it. Like I said, I haven't watched any WWE since the previous premium live event. I thought it was cool to see Cody finally be in a WarGames match because that was something that was started by his dad, right? That was cool to see that he's finally in one. And then when Randy Orton showed up, surprise, surprise, the first thing that came to my head was like, Dad, did this guy get buffer? Like, what happened? He looks even stronger now than when he left.
That's true. He looks in better shape. Maybe he got healthier.
He looks better now.
He used to be really buff when he was younger, like 2004, 2005.
I remember that. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he was like the steroid Randy Orton.
Kind of looks like the steroid Randy Orton again, almost.
No, he looks fine.
Not that big, but he looks better now. That RKO definitely didn't come out of nowhere. It was cool to see too.
Any thoughts on the Judgment Day taking the loss? But they still hold all the titles. They still got all the golds. This loss at WarGames doesn't hurt them at all. That's another thing. Like a loss at WarGames should seem like it should hurt you and make you look bad. But no, it's okay. It's just a loss at WarGames, whatever.
Well, it definitely doesn't make them look good. They for sure need some more victories going forward to rebuild some momentum. But I feel like we've had this conversation before, right? Like,
yeah, they seem to have their ups and downs. Judgment Day. Sometimes they get beaten. Sometimes they have a night where they come out with literally all the gold. So I don't know. It's kind of weird.
It's literally just Rhea getting all the victories.
Yeah, the other guys take L's from time to time. Okay, so that's our review of WarGames this year. Robert was saying they don't do them that often, so it's okay. To me, I've seen it enough. They do it once a year. It's not often, but they seem to do it the same way every year now. We know what to expect. They're going to bring out the tables. They're going to bring out the chairs. Someone's going through that table. Someone's going to fly off the top of the cage. I just think they could have done more with the angles leading up to it, like the same criticism we give to AEW. The storylines could have been a little better. I don't know if you watch our show, Robert, while you were gone, but me and Vlad I gave some criticism of the whole build-up to this Survivor Series match. They're looking for a fifth partner. Give him a phone call. Can you give him a phone call? Just call him. See what he says. Oh, he said yes. He's coming. He said he's coming. Oh, how good. How cool. That was the Survivor Series to me. The build-up didn't really get me excited for it at all. The match itself was what we expected. I think I want more from my wrestling. It was okay, but I can't really tell a non-wrestling fan, like, hey, you should have come over and watched this with me. This was amazing. It wasn't, so whatever.
It was not, yes.
Yeah,
I agree.
so
Agreed, absolutely.
that's all for this episode of the Malapert Smart Podcast. We'll be back with more segments. We're going to discuss AEW from this past week. If you're interested in that, keep an eye on our channel, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, I guess. And that's how you know when we post it. Have a good one. Until the next time we see you.